I want to share with you what I call the Manger Angels. So what might that be, or what might that mean? The Manger Angels. Well, this is my story, and it happened once upon a time. Once upon a time, back in the 90s, I was learning about animal communication, and I met this llama through a picture at my very second animal communication workshop. It was a beginning animal communication workshop that was held at somebody's barn, not far from where I live in Virginia. And I did a little practice with this llama because the llama's name was Gulliver. So let me introduce you to Gulliver. This is Gulliver. Now, have you ever met a llama before? Because I hadn't. So I had my very first animal communication conversation with Gulliver through a photograph. I had never met him, but it was pretty profound. And I'm like, who the heck are you? Wow, I have to go meet you. So the animal communicator, her name is Dawn Heyman, amazing animal teacher and communicator, lives at a animal sanctuary up in upstate New York, Clinton, New York, called Spring Farm Cares. And that's where Gulliver lived. So I went up one late fall to an advanced animal communication workshop. I couldn't wait to meet Gulliver. So this is where the story begins. I had just arrived in the little kind of mountain area, this beautiful farm in upstate New York, and a bunch of students in this advanced animal communication course were given, our first assignment was to go out to the barn or anywhere we wanted to talk to any of the animals that were residents of Spring Farm Cares, which is an animal sanctuary. So I could not wait to go see Gulliver, to meet Gulliver. I mean, this llama, right? So I go into the barn. I tried to have a little conversation with the donkeys and the horses and the minis and like all kinds of animals, and it was like kind of crickets. It was like pretty general. I was like, okay, I'm distracted. I just got to go see Gulliver. So I walk around the barn. There was like kind of little rooms in the barn. It was really interesting. Right? So I go around the corner, and I knew Gulliver was in there, but there was another student, very peaceful, talking to these two horses. And I backed away, and she was like, come in. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I was so excited because I turned the corner, and I see Gulliver sitting on the floor of the barn, and another llama, and goats and sheep. So I want you to meet them before I get into what happened for me to have this experience with what I call the Manger Angels. So this is Gulliver the llama, and this is what he looks like full-figured. I took this probably the following day. So Gulliver, the way you know him is he's got dark around here, dark eyes, dark ears, and he's just pretty amazing. And then this is his buddy Corey. He's all white. Gulliver's behind him. So I just want you I want to introduce you to the Manger Angels. So this is Corey the llama. And then, of course, as you can see, this is Gulliver with the dark, and behind him is Corey, so they're best buds. And again, you can see they just kind of hang out together outside. Corey on the left and my heart, Gulliver, on the right. And then there were sheep. I'm sorry, that's a goat. See, I'm not a country girl. So this was a big deal for me. Oh my God, these are like farm animals. Not somebody that you would have in your home or in the suburbs where I grew up and where I live. I'd never been around a goat or sheep or llamas before in my life. I was like, oh my gosh. So there were two black and white sheep. So this is one of them. And one of the goats was named Celeste. And then this is Simon, the goat, really wise, amazing being. That's another story. And when I took this picture, I had been told Simon would do an angel pose. So his ears kind of hung down droopy like this. And I went out the next day into their field, their pasture, and I said, Simon, I heard that you do an angel pose. would you do that for me? I know you're not supposed to ask to, do on-demand things, but would you? And he went, whoop! And I took the picture really fast, and I was like, are you kidding me? And so he put his ears back down, and I said, I know I'm not supposed to ask you to repeat, to do tricks, but could you do it again? And whoop! He stuck his ears like that, out like this again. And I took another picture, and it was like, okay, why do they call this your angel pose? Aside from, it looks like angel wings. Well, we'll get to that in a little while. You're going to have to stick around. And then this is the other black and white goat. And then there were 3 black sheep. And their names were Angel, was the mommy, and then 2 boys, Gabriel and Michael. So here they are, all 3 black sheep. You can't really tell they're black because the sun's really, really light, with Corey the llama. So that's everybody. So here are all of the Manger Angels, so you can see what I'm talking about. And in the very back, right here, you can see kind of tucked under with his head upright is Gulliver. And I wanted to share this picture with you because when I walked into the barn and I saw all of these animals for the first time. They were all inside, and Gulliver was lying down on the floor of the barn with his legs tucked under just like this. And right behind him was Corey. And he was also lying down on the floor of the barn with his legs tucked under, so their heads are upright, and they're looking, and I'm like, whoa, wow. So I quietly walked in, and there were 2 horse stalls with a wall that I made for my backrest. So I just sat down on the floor of the barn with all these animals walking around free, right? Except for the horses that were in their stalls. And I had my back on a wooden wall that went to a horse stall that the other student was talking to these horses. So there I was. I stretched my feet out straight, and at the end of my feet was Gulliver, tucked under and just looking straight at me with those giant dark eyes. And I'm like, wow. And Corey was right behind him, the llama. And then the 3 sheep, Angel, Gabriel, and Michael, were on my left. So just imagine this. You're sitting on the ground of a barn, your feet are outstretched, and these amazing animals are all around you. And then the 2 black and white goats were pretty young, and they were walking around on my right, going back and forth because there were students coming and going, and they just were like, what is happening? And then Simon, the white goat, that does the angel pose, he was just like standing there right next to me. And so I did the usual, what many animal communication students do, is ask some pretty standard questions. And I kind of received some answers back like, meh. Like, okay, don't you have anything good for us? And then all of a sudden, I heard Simon. Now, it wasn't like, the show Mr. Ed, hey, Wilbur. It wasn't like that. I felt it in my heart. I felt it in my whole being. And so we humans translate things into words. So what I kind of heard and felt from Simon, can't you see the angels? They're all around. And I went, I had my eyes closed. I opened my eyes and was like, huh? Did I hear that? And as I was looking around, there was this beautiful ray of sunshine beaming in, coming all the way across the barn. And you know how when sunshine comes into a room, you see a beam of light? You can see the dust floating around. Well, there was particles of dust, but they were sparkling. And I was like, is this what you mean? Like sparks of dust? Is that what you mean? And he was like, shh, be quiet. Be quiet. And everyone was quiet. The llamas, the sheep, the goats. There were no human students anymore. They had left. It was just quiet. I was just breathing in the quiet. And I felt this sense of peace, like I've never experienced before. I could smell the hay and all of the barn smells, which is something I'm not used to. It was like, oh, wow, this is pretty amazing. And the air was cool and crisp and clear. It was the end of October at that point in time, but it was pretty cold, like it would be right now in December. And this peace came over me. And the thought came to me, this must be what it was like on that first Christmas in the manger. That beautiful peace and stillness. And the animals were there as a witness. Why were the animals the witnesses? You can ask them. Just ask them and they'll give you an answer as to the why. But they showed me this beautiful, peaceful feeling with angels all around. And it was time to go back inside, so I thanked them, but I've never forgotten what that felt like. And when I went back inside and shared with the teacher what happened, what I received, I was like, oh my God, she's going to think I'm a little wackadoodle here, right? Angels and the manger. And what she told me was, to the day, because it was Halloween, quite a few years ago, not far from where I was sitting was another barn, and it burnt to the ground because it was snowing. And the emergency vehicles couldn't get there. And the animals that I call the Manger Angels, the animals that are in this picture, witnessed this. And they witnessed their friends becoming angels. So when Simon said, can't you see the angels? They're everywhere. They were the angels of Spring Farm, the magical place that it is. The angels watching over and protecting, and it was just so beautiful and just beyond words, truly. So that is kind of my story about the Manger Angels.